Hi guys, welcome back again. Did you have fun reading the article about the names? Pretty interesting, right? Did you know about everything about the names of Jay-Z and Lady Gaga, for example? Pretty interesting, right? Can you remember any other famous people that have like a stage name and a very common name? That's interesting. If you have, you could exchange some ideas with your classmates, right? Good. So, now what we're going to do, we're going to continue working with the grammar topics of this unit, right? So, can you remember the other two grammar topics that we have seen before? So, first of all, we talked about those modal verbs that express an opinion, like should or ought to, right? We also talked about those ones that we use when we want to express that something is very important or necessary, right? And later on, we talked about had better and had better not, when we also talk about this idea of if I do something, the result might be very negative, or if I don't do something, the result might be negative as well, right? So now we're going to continue working with some other modal verbs, right? We're going to work with can or can't in the negative and must or must not, right? I do know, and you probably are wondering why are we talking about can and must again? Right, because these verbs, these modal verbs or special verbs, they have many different contexts in which we can use them. And now we're going to take a look at some contexts that before we didn't cover. Okay, so let's take a closer look here at the grammar. So what you have to do now, in order to understand these different meanings and contexts, I want you to try to complete these sentences here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, with can, can't, or must not in the negative, right? So, these sentences probably they will sound familiar to you, right? Because one of them was in the listening exercise that you did before, the one with Mrs. Jenkins and Paul, okay? And also, the other three sentences are in the article about the strange names, right? Or at least the different names. But before we go there, I want you to try to complete the sentences. So again, you're going to pause this video here now, and you are going to complete sentences 1, 2, 3, and 4 with can, can't, must, or must not. Okay? All right, very good. Could you complete these sentences? Was it difficult to remember? Did it ring a bell? Like, I know this sentence over here. I hope yes. Okay, so a bit different from what we have been doing in the past videos. Now I want you to do the following. I want you to pause this video here again. And then I want you to go back to the listening and try to identify which one of these 4 sentences was in the listening, and if you got the correct answer. And after, I want you to go to the article on page 34, and if you don't have your books, no problems, go back to the study guide, you have the article there, okay? And try to find the other 3 sentences. So again, pause this video again, go back first to the listening, try to identify which one of the sentences was in the listening, and if you got your answer correct, and later go to the text, the article on from page 34, the one about the names, and try to identify the 3 sentences, and if you could get them correct as well, right? So pause the video and do this now. All right, was it difficult to find? Which one did you find the most difficult to find? The one in the listening or the one in the article? Probably in the listening, right? Because we need to listen with lots of attention. Because reading, we can go, we read once and then, oh yeah, it's here, or no, I couldn't find, then you go there again, right? So it's easier to deal with the language in the text, much easier than dealing with the language on a listening, right? So let's check our answers and see if you could get them correct. So remember this crazy names text? That's the one we were talking about. So here, number 1, we have the options can, can't, or must not. So in this one here is can. Can I ask you something? Right? So we're asking the permission to the person to ask a more personal question maybe, or an information that is very sensitive. Okay? Now, you can, can't, or must not. In this one here, according to the text, is you can name your twins fish and chips. For those who don't know, fish and chips is a very traditional dish in the UK, right? In England, London. If you visit London, it's a very traditional type of food. So you have a piece of fish and some chips to eat together. So in New Zealand, you can't name your twins fish and chips, right? But according to number 3 and according to the article, you can name a child number 16 bus shelter. Imagine yourselves being called number 16 bus shelter. Imagine when your mom is mad at you and is calling out loud, number 16, come over here. Very strange, right? But you can do that in New Zealand, right? And number 4, a name can, can't, or must not. According to the judge in the article, a name must not make a fool of the child. And here we can check that the first sentence is in the listening, and sentences 2, 3, and 4 are, you can find them in the article called Crazy Names. Okay? So let's check our answers. Well done, guys. Did you get them all correct? Was it difficult? Here we can talk about something pretty interesting, which is the pronunciation of can and can, right? Because sometimes when a person is speaking in the everyday language, it's pretty hard to notice the difference between the affirmative, can, and the negative, can't. Right, here I am forcing the t sound at the end to say you can't name your twins. But usually people go very fast and you just hear you can name your twins fish and chips, right? So from the context we understand that the person is using the negative form. Okay, very good. So going back, here we have the rule, right? And we need to complete the rule with can, can't, or must not, right? So let's check the rule here. So the rule says, to talk or ask about permission, we often use the modal verb can, right? So, for example, can I ask you a favor? Can you lend me your pen? Can I go to the toilet? Can you pass me the salt? So, in this, no, actually, the last one is not a permission, but for example, can I borrow your bike? Or can I leave the table? In all these situations, we are talking about permission, right? And continuing here in the rule, to say what isn't allowed, right? So something that is prohibited, something that we can't do, we often use, just as I did, can't or must not. Remember the sentence from the judge. He said, a name must not make must not make a child fool, or something like that, right? So it's not allowed. You cannot use a name in a child that will make them feel uncomfortable in the future, right? So you are not allowed. So again, when we are asking about talking or asking about permission, we need to use can in the affirmative. But when we are talking about something that is not allowed, something that is not permitted to do, or to say maybe, we need to use can't in the negative or must not. Okay? Good. So now, taking a look here at exercise 2, what I want you to do first, I want you to complete sentences 1, 2, 3, and 4 with must not and these verbs over here. So we have the verbs run, talk, be, and miss. Okay, so again, you will not use can or can't. You just need to use must not and the verbs here in this list. So pause the video, complete sentences 1 to 4 with must not plus the verb. Okay, and then come back later for us to continue this exercise. All right, was it difficult? This one wasn't difficult, right? Because you just needed to use must, not, and the verbs, and you just needed to understand the context from the sentences. Okay, so I hope you could do this exercise easily. Okay, so let's check our answers. So we have here, you so loudly. So loud and loudly is related to the volume of something, right? So probably run and volume don't go well. Be, maybe, but, and miss, not so much, but talk, very probably, right? So here the answer is, you must not talk so loudly. Then late. Remember, there's a very common expression, to be late. I am late, she was late, he will be late, right? So here, I must not be late. Number 3, the goal, right? So the goal is the objective of something. We can create this context over here, or even in soccer, right? The goal. So here we're talking about getting to the goal or missing the goal. So here we need to complete with I must not miss the goal. And finally, you must not run. Probably you must not run in the hallways of your school, right? There will always be someone saying, stop running, or you can't run, or you must not run, right? So let's check our answers. Very good. Well done, guys. Okay? Very important. Remember, in the last video, I mentioned this, and this is also very clear here. Remember, I said that these verbs are also called the special verbs because they need a different treatment, okay? And another very important thing here about modal verbs or special verbs is all the time you use them, we never put to after them. For example, you never say, you must not to talk so loudly. No, this is not appropriate, okay? You need to always use the modal verb. So in this case here we are looking, you must not, and the next verb, no to before. So you must not talk, you must not be, I must not miss, you must not run. Okay, so we never put to after this verb. So we never say can to, or must to. Okay, so that's another tip I have for you over here, right? So let's go back again to the rule once more so that we really internalize the concept. To talk or ask about permission, we use the modal verb can, and to say what isn't allowed or what isn't permitted, we often use can't or must not. Okay? Now, for us to have some fun, take a look at the next part of this exercise here, number 2. Now, what you have to do, you have to match the sentences 1, 2, 3, 4 with these pictures over here. Okay? So, look at the sentences. Imagine which one, which of them refers or is related to the pictures over here. So we have pictures A, B, C, and D. So pause the video now and do this matching, okay? All right, could you match? Do the matching. It's pretty simple, right? So let's try. So here we have 2 men. They seem to be in a restaurant. One of them is talking on the phone. The other is like pointing. And we can see the mouth has some very loud sound going out, right? So probably this one is related to you must not talk so loudly. Good. Number 2, we have an adult, 3 kids. They seem to be in a school. That adult might be the principal or maybe a teacher, a coordinator, right? And probably he's talking about not running. So you must not run, okay? In picture number 3, what can we see over here? We see a young girl, right? She's probably around 20 or something. She has a case in her hand. She seems to be running. So probably, and we see the building in the back, right? So probably she seems late. And she's looking at her watch over here, right? So probably this one is I must not be late. And finally, we have this soccer game. We have the goalkeeper. We have this guy. Probably it's the final part of a game, right? Very decisive moment. And he must not miss the goal, right? Let's check our answers. Well done, guys. Very good. This one, it was also, I hope it was also pretty simple to understand. So here is a very clear image, right? We are definitely, literally actually, working with the images of the contexts in which those sentences would be used. Okay? Very good. So, coming back here, we have a last exercise to do. Let's take a closer look. So, in exercise number 3, we have rewrite the sentences in your notebook using modal verbs from this unit and the pronouns in parentheses. There is often more than one possible answer. Very good. Do you remember the last video I told you that you could do exactly this with some other sentences, right? You could replace the modal verbs with the concept, with the meaning of the verb. So let's take a look at the example. So here we have sentence 0. The sentence is diving isn't allowed, and we need to use the pronoun you. So let's take a look. Diving is the verb, and the idea is that diving is not allowed. Now what is the rationale we have to use? we need to remember which one of those modal verbs that we have talked about are used or are used to talk about something that is not allowed. This one is pretty easy because this is the one we have just talked about, right? In this case here, we could use you can't dive here, just like in the example, or even we could say you must not dive here. All right? So, let's check the other sentences. Number 1. It isn't necessary for us to wear uniforms, and the pronoun is we. So, what's the most important part of the sentence? It isn't necessary for us. Can you remember which one of those modal verbs is used to talk about necessity, something that is not necessary? Can you? So if you can't, just remember, go back there to the study guide, take a look at the rules. Remember, that's why we complete the rules, to help you remember later when you have some doubts or exercises like this, right? Now, 2. It's a good idea to buy a new phone, and the pronoun is you. Again here, it's a good idea. What is the modal verb that we can use to express it's a good idea? If you can't remember, go back to the rules and check. 3. It's okay for you to use my laptop. So here, it's okay for you. What does it mean? That the person is giving permission. What is the modal verb that we use to give permission? 4. It's necessary for them to work harder, and the pronoun is they. So it's necessary. What? The question is always the same. What is the modal verb that expresses this meaning of necessity? And finally, number 5, is it okay to play here? And the pronoun is we. Then again, is it okay to play here is talking about permission, is asking permission to play there, right? So what is the modal verb that we can use to replace this meaning? So again, please pause the video here, go back to the rules and try to rewrite the sentences just like in the example. Then later, come back here for us to check. Okay? All right, so could you finish? Could you do that? Was it difficult? I hope not. Okay, so let's try to do them again. And very important here, there are more than 1 or 2 options sometimes. Okay, so don't worry if your answer is not exactly like the one I'm going to put here. Okay, but if your answer is according to the rules, they are possible, no problems at all. Okay, guys, so let's see. Number 1, it isn't necessary for us to wear uniforms. So here, when we say it's not necessary, I can say we don't have to wear uniforms. Okay, if you found another option for it's not necessary, no problems. 2, it's a good idea to buy a new phone. So remember, how can we say it's a good idea? You should buy a new phone. Okay, now 3, it's okay for you to use my laptop. You can use my laptop. All right, so remember, it's okay. I'm giving you permission. 4, it's necessary for them to work harder. So here I can say they have to work harder. or even must. Okay? And 5, finally, is it okay to play here? It's a question for permission. So, can we play here? Okay? Were your answers close to this ones? So, let's check. Oops, I think there is an P missing over here. Can we play? Ooh, I don't know what's going on with my keyboard. Can we play here? Now it's correct, right? So again, number 1, we don't have to wear uniforms. 2, you should buy a new phone. 3, you can use my laptop. 4, they have to work harder. And 5, can we play here? Okay, guys. So that's it for now related to this grammar topic, right? And now you have to go back to your study guide and you are going to work with some vocabulary using the expressions that use the word name. Okay? So see you next time. Bye.